The first time I ever read a book cover to cover was a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And when I read that book, it opened my mind to a whole new world of money that I had never been exposed to before. Once I read that book, then I started reading Dave Ramsey's books. And then I started reading more books. And then I started learning and I started applying what I was learning. And this is where now being willing to spend that time, not just reading, but also doing, can change the trajectory of your life. And yeah, it can be very hard. When I was going to law school, I didn't want to go to law school. I went there to make my parents happy. I was going to law school, but at the same time, I knew I didn't want to be an attorney. I went through law school. I became a licensed attorney, and I have never worked a day as an attorney. And the reason why is because when I was in law school, my time was spent trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do. So now I'm in law school, I'm working on my business, and that was a lot of time before classes, after classes. I was running a stock company at the time. I also started my YouTube channel around that time. And so then I also started taking acting classes. I started taking a evening acting class to start learning how do I talk in front of a camera, because I had never done anything like that before. And so now I'm spending my time doing all these different things, and I'm also working to invest in real estate. I also got my real estate salesperson's license. I was doing everything that I possibly could to learn, because that was how I learned. I learned by doing. And I knew that this was my opportunity to learn and do something because I wanted to achieve something different. And so now if you want to be able to earn more money or invest better or get better returns, or build more wealth, you have to invest more in yourself. They say that, where there's a will, there's a way. We've all heard that statement before. But that's such a vague statement. What the heck does that even mean? When I used to go and guest teach in Detroit Public Schools, it's a very rough school district. Smart kids, many times in tough situations. And I would go and guest teach once a week or once a month in these schools. And I would talk to the kids about money and life and leadership. And I would ask questions like, how many of you have a job? These are high school kids. And pretty much everybody would raise their hands saying that they have a job. Then I would ask, how many of you have a bank account? Nobody raised their hand. Not a single person had a bank account. So I would ask, what do you do with the money that you earn? You get this physical paycheck, you go to the local liquor store, you cash the paycheck, the liquor store owner takes 1 to 10% of the check, you buy a bunch of pop and candy on the way out, and now you have a small fraction of your entire paycheck on the way out. But at the same time, what are you prioritizing? Because when these kids wanted the newest pair of Jordans, they would do whatever it took to get those Jordans, whether it was working extra hours, whether it was sacrificing spending money on things at school, whether it was not eating lunch. People would make huge sacrifices to get the newest pair of Jordans because that's what they wanted. So now my mindset is, how do we now reallocate this mindset instead of getting the Jordans to building wealth? And this is where it goes back to the same thing. When you want something, you will find a way to get it, whether it's a pair of shoes, whether it is a Gucci bag, whether it's a car, whether it's a big home, whether it's whatever. If your goal now is to build wealth, if your goal is to invest in a rental property, if your goal is to build a big stock market portfolio, you got to get hyper focused on that. That means now you got to spend your time learning how to do that. Because when that's something that you want really bad, you are going to figure out whatever it takes to do that. And it becomes much easier to make those sacrifices because nobody likes not being able to go out to eat. Nobody likes not being able to go on a vacation. I mean, these sacrifices suck. How are you going to explain to your wife or your husband, hey, we can't go out to eat anymore because I want to get rich or I want to become wealthy? Win. What does that even mean? Nobody wants to just make sacrifices for the sake of making sacrifices. You got to get on the same page where, hey, let's make this financial sacrifice. Let's not go on a vacation this year. That way we can work to build our wealth. That way in a few years, we can go on 2 vacations a year instead of just 1. Because now you're working for something bigger, and that's what you have to align yourself on and your goals on is how are you going to get bigger? And then you got to get laser focused on that idea of getting bigger. And now the resource that is the most powerful is your time. Of course, you have to use your money smartly, but your time, if you can use your time the right way, that's what's going to show you what you can do with your money. That way you can grow your money, and that's what's going to show you how you can earn more money. That way you can have more money to invest. But this means you are going to have to allocate your time. And I know it's not easy. If you got kids, it's not easy. If you got a spouse, it's not easy. We all got things going on in life. Everybody's having babies. Everyone's got a baby shower. Everyone's having these graduation parties. There's always something going on. But you got to get focused on you. I call it a decade of sacrifice. Now, of course, it's easier to do this when you're in your 20s, but it's easier to do it in your 30s than it is your 40s. It's also easier in your 40s and your 50s. And it's also easier in your 50s and your 60s. But this is where the sooner you start, the better it is, because the decade of sacrifice, where now this decade you are working to spend less and earn more. That way you can do one thing, invest your money. That way you can build wealth. That's what's going to allow you to set yourself apart from everybody else that you know. If you enjoyed this short clip from my longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And while you're at it, if you're interested in learning more about how to start generating passive income, our team put together an amazing guide on how to start generating passive income for free. All you got to do is click that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.